I think the problem is that there's a disconnect among people who are advocating this, not just the newspaper owners. Oddly enough, some people who are media analysts and media participants, Dan Rather is one person who's been in favor of this sort of action. It's very puzzling to me, not only because of the historical nature of the fact that the press and the government are not supposed to be partners, but secondly, the fact is that there's this notion that somehow there's an entitlement for there to be a New York Times or a Washington Post, that somehow or another CBS News and the New York Times are mentioned in the First Amendment. Well, they're not.
Right.
They're not. And so the idea is that the government has to keep these existing institutions alive, even if they're no longer viable, even if their business model doesn't work anymore. And I find that very disturbing, for one thing, because in a free market economy, if some provider isn't offering consumers what they want at a price they can afford to pay, then that provider goes out of business and is replaced by something else, which actually serves consumers better. But this notion now is that no, that newspapers are so important, not just newspapers, the newspapers that now exist are so important that they can't be allowed to fail. And I just find that very alarming, and it's not good for public discourse in this country.